The best of money matters. Right Business.
Welcome to The Right Business, where we dive deep into the stories of trailblazers who dare to disrupt the status quo, find the gap in the market to find the right business. Hello, I'm Hongbin Jeong. Managing a shift-based workforce has never been easy. From last-minute schedule changes to compliance headaches, juggling full-timers, part-timers, and casual workers to keeping teams engaged, the process is often a tangled web of spreadsheets, phone calls, and manual approvals. And even with modern HR tools in the market, many organizations still find themselves drowning in admin work and struggling to make quick, data-driven decisions. Insight Technologies was created to change that by bringing AI, automation, and real-time insights together in one platform to help organizations save time, reduce errors, and manage their workforce with agility. So how is Insight Technologies simplifying workforce management and ensuring teams can operate at their best? Well, joining us today is Nicholas Lim, co-founder and CEO of Insight Technologies. Hi, Nicholas. Welcome to the show.
Yep, thanks for having me, Hongbin.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, Nicholas, what was happening in the workforce management space that made you feel that there was a big enough gap to start Insight Technologies?
Right. I think everyone would have assumed that the entire HR space is already quite contested. So originally for Insight Technologies, we started out with a company called Outside. So we pivoted to Insight after.
Okay.
What we originally did was that we actually provide kind of like a staffing platform for the hospitality industry when COVID hit pretty badly at that point. So we used to provide a platform that provides casual workers to these shift-based organizations. So I can't really name names right now, but just the biggest attractions and hotel people that you can imagine. So essentially while we were working with them, we realized that they had a lot of difficulty and changes that needs to be made when it came to like requesting for casuals. And they were starting to request like whether they could insert their own team members into our platform to help with the scheduling. And that's when we realized that, there is a bigger issue here. And we started digging a little more, and then we realized that, like exactly what you mentioned earlier, they're spending a lot of time across multiple different fragmented solutions. The data silo, meaning that the full-timers and part-timers that you scheduled is in one place. You have multiple agencies that you're working with, and you need to contact every single one through WhatsApp, managing them through Excel just to consolidate who's actually coming to work that day. So that's when we noticed that, okay, maybe we can try creating a proper all-in-one workforce management solution for the shift-based organizations.
Okay, very interesting. I mean, shift-based organizations, they have existed for decades, and there are already plenty of scheduling and HR tools in the market. So why did you feel the existing solutions weren't enough and they weren't cutting it? Was it a lack of integration, adaptability, or a deeper understanding of the unique challenges shift-based teams face?
Right. So I think I'll start off with the first part, which is what the usual scheduling solutions look like. So if you're running a simple cafe, here, like example, you have two shifts, right? The opening and closing parts, and you have about 10 employees or less usually. So the scheduling is quite simple there. What you need to do is set up a template, copy paste it to the next week, and most likely these schedules already include the individuals who are inside. So that's like 90+% of the scheduling solution that you see out there. I think the other part would be when it's coming to enterprise, right? We're talking about larger corporations with like multiple outlets. Like in one hotel, there's at least 18 to 20 outlets that they have to schedule for, housekeeping, different F&B outlets and stuff. There's also additional steps of approvals that are required. When you're requesting for casuals, requesting for OT, when you have to look at who's unavailable, which leave and off to approve. So it's actually a much bigger picture in terms of like decision making rather than what the usual scheduling solution offers for a typical smaller chain F&B.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of things to overcome, and managing a lot of people, right? It is quite challenging. I mean, you've positioned Insight Technologies as a next generation AI-powered workforce management platform that can save managers up to 90% of the time they usually spend on, admin. So could you walk us through how Insight Technologies actually achieves this? I mean, what are the features or design choices that make it possible to deliver such dramatic time savings? I mean, 90% of the time is quite a lot.
Yep. Quite proud about that. So essentially, I think one of the main features we'll highlight here would be the smart scheduling itself. So when we talk about a smart schedule, we're talking about the flexibility that's required in an interface that the managers require. So I think if we take the usual solutions that they have, like HR enterprise solutions, usually the last source of truth, which means that you put in the final entry. So they're all actually still using Excel to do the changes, and they just insert the final entry for payroll. So Insight's created to be flexible in the sense that we understand that confirming of timesheet or even last-minute schedule changes can be considered audited and properly done within the platform itself. In terms of the autofill function, the example that I gave earlier, right? Like for a cafe, they already assigned a specific person to always do that shift. And the real issue happens when someone falls sick, right? Like they take an MC or someone has urgent leave, and now you have a gap. Right, so what we created was an autofill function that helps to automatically fill out the rosters based on what you require for that day. So it's done on a weekly basis. It considers availability, right, in terms of whether anyone's on leave, off, preferences. So this part is kind of like the employee sentiment part. We have team members who prefer to do AM shift, night shift, midnight shift. We're talking about an organization that operates 24/7, right? So we have people who have preferences. And of course, compliance, one of the trickiest parts, right? We have the normal 44 hours for office workers. For shift workers, it's 44 hours average, 72 hours OT maximum. So one part that autofill helps to consider is what we consider a fairness index in terms of like how much OT is being scheduled to each individual. So we're taking out the biasness. We're trying to help to automate the entire scheduling and at the same time ensuring that they are compliant.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when it comes to scheduling some of these shift workers, sometimes, the managers or the person in charge of the admin, they will have their top favorites, right? So they will keep making them work, and sometimes it is not fair. So is this all part of the smart scheduling that you have for Insight Technologies?
Yeah, so we kind of consider Smart Schedule as a page by itself with multiple different modules. So it kind of assists with compliance, availability, preferences, autofill, last-minute changes, and ensuring that there's an audit trail to make sure that you can track the changes. Yeah.
That's very amazing. So you've also built tools for casual workforce management, including handling workers from third-party staffing agencies and managing their payouts. So why was it important to address this part of the workforce as well? Is there a clear difference in how casual workers need to be managed compared to permanent staff?
Right. So I think this one is pretty well established in the sense that casual workers, I'm not saying that they're not reliable, but essentially there is the issues of time thefting, right? We're talking about people who did not actually show up on time and stuff like that. And also at the same time, like just looking at, for example, one of the luxury hotels we're working with, they have about 400 in terms of manpower, but the number of casual shifts they have each year is about 40,000.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about possibly 40,000 unique individuals coming in for one singular shift in the outlet. So there's no proper way to track that. And when they are doing scheduling as a service organization, they actually require a lot of casuals to fill in for these gaps. And there's no solution out there. This one, I'm quite certain, is one of our unique propositions when we're talking to these organizations. They actually still have to rely on each outlet speaking to each POC from each agency to just manage the number of people who are coming in. This results to the payroll being processed later, a possible compliance issue due to the amount of paperwork that's happening. Yeah, and essentially we believe that the best way to handle scheduling is to put all of this into one place. So when you see the labor demand requirements, you put up the shifts, your team members were available, you can instantly decide if you need to request for casuals from one of your currently partnered agencies, or even look at one of our staffing platform partners to provide manpower to you.
Oh, very interesting. Well, aside from shift-based workers, then, are there other groups of workers who benefit significantly from what Insight offers?
I wish I can say yes, but honestly, Insight is very, very tailored to the services industry. So if you're just working 9 to 5, we are not going to be very useful there. But besides the workers itself, I definitely think that upper management and managers have a better time, with us just being part of their ecosystem.
Right. Well, when it comes to technology and AI, not everyone is kind of used to using a different platform. They would kind of go to the traditional ways, right? So what does the typical customer journey look like? If a client comes to you and they want to implement Insight Technologies into their admin, do you train them or do you help them, give them a scope of how they're supposed to use Insight Technologies platform?
Right. So I think you mentioned the biggest bane for any tech solution that's trying to target enterprise, change management.
Right.
The resistance to change is very, very high across the lower line managers level. And usually the people who speak to us are the upper management that wants to see something big changing in their organization. So I think that the first step is accepting that it will take time. And of course, to the best of our ability, we have created user guides. We have created demo videos. At the same time, I think we do try to approach with pretty structured way of selling when we are talking to these organizations. So we try to get them on board for a pilot with their worst or most tiring outlet to deal with. And we'll try to onboard them and go through like a 4-week program whereby we meet them like for 30 minutes once every week to kind of just walk through how the scheduling will look like, attendance tracking, timesheet, if you want a request for casual. So we try to break it down into smaller pieces and really guide next to them to get them to get used to it. Right. So the good part would be once the users onboarded, we actually do send them like 70, 80 pages of user guides, right? But the good part that I've seen across the organizations we worked with, there's usually champions that will arise from there. So the first outlet they work with, after you save enough time for them, they become the one teaching the other managers how to do it. And they are like your first line of support staff before it actually reaches you.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess it still come out well. I think they all want to improve their processes, but new things are always scary to people.
Definitely. So once they've accepted and embraced Insight Technologies into their workflow here, what have been the feedback like from, such managers or even shift workers, who are seeing better shift timings through your platform?
Right. I think I'll just mention a case study right now. So we are actually filming something with STB right now.
Okay.
Right. So we have a bit of a success with one of the hotels, which I don't think I'm allowed to say yet. But it's a pretty renowned luxury hotel that we worked with. And we have a lot of good feedback from them in the initial pilot trial. They helped us a lot in terms of like optimizing the product. And I think the most memorable line for my whole team right now is the line manager that we worked with after that 3 months pilot. She mentioned to us that I don't even think about scheduling anymore. The whole thing just feels like magic, right? So we're really thankful for that. And of course, like her team members were really happy too, because before this, they actually need to send WhatsApp messages to her to ask like, hey, can I get my off day or rest day? So to give more context here, for office workers, we have our off and rest days on Saturday and Sunday. The service crews or shift workers, essentially, they have to work 7 days a week.
Right.
So their rest and off days, things that are usually not selectable. But with our solution, we made it more interactive and kind of made the whole thing more collaborative for this outlet. So the team members are also happier in the sense that they don't have to use their leave to request for a specific day off. They can actually request for their 1 or 2 days off a week on the days that they actually require, and also send in offers for specific shifts that they want instead.
Right. I mean, it sounds like a win-win solution for everybody. I mean, there are plenty of workforce management platforms out there. Then why should companies choose Insight Technologies over other solutions, Nicholas? I mean, what's your biggest differentiator, you think?
Right. I think it will sum down to 3 parts, right? So the first one is the shift worker part requires the flexibility. If you actually look at larger solutions, because you're a large enterprise, the small solutions or the smaller startups that are tailored towards SMEs will not be able to service that. On the other end, we are probably, I'm pretty certain, right, but I won't say 100%, the only platform that actually integrates like your casual workforce. So if you are a hotel that has 400 staff with 40,000 casual shifts per year, right? A solution like us would allow you to see and manage the whole thing in one place, right? The third part would be Smart Schedule. So although Smart Schedule, I mean, the good part about tech companies, right? The products are always evolving, right? So I think Smart Schedule right now kind of saves about 90+% of the time that they spend on scheduling. And there are more upgrades coming up, which will really differentiate us in terms of, I'll probably just say it as we're taking away the guesswork from scheduling. We're trying to make the whole scheduling process scientific in the sense that we understand the output and the input that's required and help you to determine when understaffing or overstaffing is happening and give you the best recommendation of how you should deal with these circumstances.
Okay. So how do you plan to stay ahead of the curve then when it comes to simplifying and optimizing workforce management, Nicholas? I mean, what strategies or innovations will help you maintain that lead?
Right. So I don't really like going towards fads, but AI is really defining a whole new generation right now. I think even over at Y Combinator, like one of the accelerators in US, they also mentioned that this is the right time for AI native solution to come out. They believe that this is when, like example, 20 years ago when cloud hosted solutions rather than installing at a server was the thing that redefined how enterprise solutions look like. For us, I think we are also facing this new wave of AI disruptions. GPT-5 2-3 days ago, I assume, right? And the amount of abilities that a solution can get with AI itself in terms of like improving, I mean, ultimately for the end user, it doesn't feel like there's any difference, right? You click one button, it is a solution that comes out, just more accurate, right? I think transforming our back-end infrastructure is one thing that we've been working on to prepare ourselves to be future-proof. So I think that is the main thing that we are looking towards as a whole, like trying to figure out which part of this AI wave we could utilize to better improve the offerings that we have for our clients.
Amazing. And finally, before we let you go here, Nicholas, what's next for Insight Technologies?
Right. So I think we stepped on that a while back. Yeah, it sounds very gimmicky, but it is definitely our research on AI. So I'll probably give a teaser on 2 parts.
Okay.
Right. So one part would definitely be in terms of chat. So I know chat is something that is very commonly used by people already. But the main reason why we are looking at an AI native structure for our solution is that we actually want this chat to be able to help these service crews or users of the platform to be able to ask the chat to do things for them. So what's my upcoming scheduling like? Help me to apply leave for this day. So we have seniors who may not be as tech savvy, and this might be a way for them to get used to the interface and use the platform better. The second one would be something that we believe will define our foothold within the scheduling scene itself. So earlier on, I mentioned resource planning. So we are trying to turn it into something more like a game. We are tokenizing the labor demand to form a currency and the output of each individual. In terms of quick example, there's 100 tables to serve. One server can serve 10 tables an hour. So how many servers do you need? So it's quick math right, for you to decide this kind of stuff. But then you have to consider that casual might only be able to serve 8. Right? So we're trying to turn the whole thing into something that is more scientifically backed to help them to make better decisions when it comes to workforce management.
Okay, well, the chat sounds like a really good implementation because, sometimes we're scared to talk to our manager, message them saying, can I take leave on this day? Well, thank you so much, Nicholas, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That was Nicholas Lim, co-founder and CEO of Insight Technologies. This has been The Right Business with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.